You have to see it to believe it. Television does it good justice, but if you can get to Anfield and see You'll Never Walk Alone be sung by nearly 50,000 people, that will give you chills.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Laura Jarrett, filling in for Yasmin Vossoughian today. On today's show, the fan rituals, the rivalries, the competition, all the things Americans loved about the World Cup are back. NBC Sports' Rebecca Lowe previews the upcoming English Premier League season and whether this could be the year the U.S. finally becomes a soccer country. Plus, 5 years after the Taliban retook control of Afghanistan, most women in the country are not allowed to go to work or school. So we're going to hear from an entrepreneur helping them get around some of those restrictions, covertly. Up first, though, Luigi Mangione has pleaded guilty to federal stalking charges and now could face life in prison. The charges are connected to the fatal shooting of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson back in December of 2024. Now, Mangione's legal team is working hard to get his state murder case tossed out. They want it dismissed. They're trying to invoke New York's double jeopardy law, which prevents someone from being tried twice based on the same criminal transaction. Mangione is set to go to trial on those state charges early next month. There's a lot to get into, and we have the right person. NBC News legal analyst Misty Marris back to help make sense of it all. Hey, Misty, long time no see.
Yes, Laura, we haven't been covering this the full day together, watching it second by second. It's been amazing to work with you on it.
Well, let's dig in on it because
Yes.
I think it's complicated.
Very complicated.
It is not straightforward, but we did hear things today that we had never heard before. We had never heard before Luigi Mangione, in his own words, admit to killing Brian Thompson until this very day.
Yes, he admitted in court. So when there's a plea deal, there has to be a factual allocution. The defendant has to say what they did. The facts have to support the elements of the crime. So today in court, Luigi Mangione did just that. But I think it went a step further, Laura.
Yes.
Every single word that he said in that courtroom was for a really, really specific purpose, making sure to go through exactly what he was pleading guilty to and saying those facts so that it could actually be used to try and get rid of that state court case.
I want to start with what our producer says he started with, which is the pain he experienced. He says, after years of enduring severe pain with my back and witnessing the healthcare system, I went to an investor conference that was not publicly disclosed to start with himself, to start with the pain, to me, is a deliberate choice.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be a through line for what we see playing out for the rest of this case. Is he going to use that narrative of the pain and his mindset and the healthcare system as a mitigating factor?
Why would that make a legal difference?
Well, a mitigating factor means that when you're in sentencing, there's all sorts of things that the judge takes into consideration. And here you have a really, really serious charge where somebody was killed. He's admitted to shooting Brian Thompson. So what the defense will do is raise what's called mitigating factors, things that actually take away from what the potential sentence could be. They would be in the defendant's favor. One is pleading guilty, taking accountability, that saving the time, expense, and pain the family would have to go through to move through the legal system. Another could be his mental state at the time of the crime. So it's something the judge could take into consideration to give a lesser sentence, which here, it's really all about, will this be life or will it be something less? That's really the question that we have going into sentencing. So something like that, his mental state being at issue at the time the crime is committed, that could be something the judge could consider. But on the flip side, Laura, could it also be a little bit of a negative in the sense of you started off the gate about you?
Yeah. I think the judge might see this as, this is not acceptance of responsibility.
It's not even necessary to establish an element of the crime.
Right.
It speaks to intent, but it's not something that really needed to be on the record. And that's why I agree with you. It was an intentional choice.
What is he getting out of this fundamentally at the end of the day? Is this just about being able to go to federal prison, which might be a little bit nicer than state prison? What is Mangione getting out of this? Because when people hear plea deal, they think there's some sort of tit for tat. They think like, I got something and you got something. In this moment, prosecutors get to walk away with a lot. They got him to admit in open court to killing this man on the record. But what is Mangione getting out of this?
Yeah, you usually think of a bargaining process, but that's not what we saw today. We saw what's called an open plea, where he is pleading guilty to the charges that he is facing. There's no haircut on it. There's no lesser included. He's pleading guilty to charges that could potentially carry a life sentence. And he was asked multiple times,
Are you sure?
Understand?
Yes.
You understand that these charges potentially carry a life sentence? Judge says, I can listen.
No takebacks.
No takebacks. The prosecution will make a recommendation, the defense, probation, it's ultimately up to me. And these are the potential consequences. Well, Laura, I think number one, you have a tremendous amount of evidence, right? A tremendous amount of evidence against him. So that's part of it. Number two, something interesting we heard in court, that there was a letter that was given to the judge from defense counsel, which represented that in discussions with prosecutors were thinking of a recommendation, although this is not set in stone. I want to emphasize, prosecutors said we can still ask for the maximum, but that prosecutors were talking about a sentencing calculation. So in federal court, it's like you just add up all of these different things, points, subtract, minus, you get to a number. That number is the offense number. That they were going to be in a range that would carry 25 to 30 years or thereabouts.
Which would be substantially less than life in prison for a man who's 28 years old.
If that's what prosecutors end up recommending, and again, it is what's called an open plea, they are not bound by any of it. They can do whatever they want at the end of the day. They can say life, which has no parole in federal court. They can say that. But if there's the possibility that prosecutors are going to be willing to make a recommendation for that, or even something in between that and life, I would say that would be a win. And in addition to that, you talk about the implication of pleading guilty and the possibility of getting rid of the state case. Well, now it makes sense why you would take that deal, even though looming over here is still the prospect of a life sentence.
So let's talk about those additional proceedings, because that's where this is going next. As you and I have hashed out at length, the federal case is one thing. We can set that aside for a moment. But not 5 minutes didn't go by before he pled guilty in that courtroom when his lawyers ran into state court with a 30-plus page filing saying why the state charges should be tossed out. They're relying on a New York law, which is friendly to defendants. But the path forward here is anything but clear as to whether this law, which he says you can't be tried for the same criminal transaction twice, is actually going to be something that he gets the benefit of. That's going to be up to the state court judge to decide.
Something that I think is really interesting, and maybe the reason why, right after his allocution, they hit the file button on the state court docket. They have laid out, Mr. Mangione has now pled guilty to the crime he committed, possessing a single gun that he fired at a single person, Brian Thompson, on the morning of December 4th, 2024, in a single place. So they've really laid it out. He said,
which is not what he's been charged with in federal court, by the way.
No, but they've laid it out. Do you see the way they laid it out factually, though?
Yes,
they're
saying, trying to include everything.
Right, this is it.
Which is normally a defendant wants to include nothing.
They want to be like, the most limited amount of things that I need to say is what I will say.
But here he wants
more.
everything. He wants everything in the stew so that he can get it all kicked out.
Right, because they want to say, look at what the basis for the federal plea is. Look what Luigi Mangione said before Judge Garnett. Those are the same facts. That's the same thing as what he's being charged with in state court. And Laura, I actually think it's going to be a bit of a novel issue. I don't know. It's not a slam dunk. It's not like, okay, everybody tear everything up and let's go home. It's going to be litigated, and this could actually make some significant case law moving forward. Now, prosecutors are going to fight back. They're going to say this falls into an exception. But looking at the totality of the circumstances and knowing how expansive the New York law really is, the defense absolutely has a shot of this being successful. And I think all eyes are going to be on it to play out. Not just Luigi Mangione, this is the most watched case in the country, but it does absolutely have consequences for defendants moving forward. And what are the parameters? What are the limits to this law?
Which is why it's going to take some time for this all.
Yeah, this is not lickety split. Okay, we've got it done by September 8th. This is going to be motion papers, back and forth arguments, and the judge taking some time to ultimately make that decision.
Misty Marris, please never leave me.
Never leave me. This is the dynamic duo over here.
Thank you. It has been 5 years since U.S. troops pulled out of Afghanistan, ending the longest war in U.S. history, but leaving an opening for the Taliban to reassert control over the country. And as the Islamist militant group retook Afghanistan, they tried to portray themselves as more moderate, promising to respect women's rights. 5 years later, that has not borne out. Most women and girls are not allowed to go to school, teach at universities, work, or get health care without a male chaperone. But Sara Wahedi is using technology to help women in Afghanistan get around some of those restrictions. Sara is an Afghan-Canadian entrepreneur and the founder of Civam, a civic technology startup operating covertly inside the country. Sara is now based in London, and she'll be teaching a course at Oxford this fall called Leading AI Through Co-Creation, helping students learn how to build AI systems with the people they actually affect. Sara spoke to Yasmin Vossoughian, our regular host of Here's the Scoop, earlier this week.
Hi, Sara.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
What does Civam do?
So with Civam, we essentially build an umbrella host of different types of tech interventions, different types of projects. And from that, we've built covert systems for healthcare, covert systems for teachers to be able to create one-to-one reporting mechanisms for their students who study secretly with them, those who can come to class, those who can't.
I need an example. So you're mainly in touch with women,
Yes.
right?
So for one of the projects, we've essentially been able to map out where women meet informally. This could be a mosque, it could be a childcare center, it could be, a cafe. And we're constantly monitoring and reporting and seeing where women are accessing these spaces and trying to figure out when to house a doctor or a gender-based violence specialist or a nurse to essentially be able to meet with these women. And we use technology to be able to allow them to connect and to report and to monitor cases in a safe way.
Wait. Let me understand this. So if you find that there is a need for a special doctor that needs to see these women that are seeking out a service
Yes.
that would not normally be accepted in a hospital,
Yeah.
you would you basically find a way to connect
Yes.
the women and this physician.
Yes.
Do the women have to be participating on the app?
No. And that's why we essentially, the concept, we called it a lighthouse, because there's 2 points that meet, but we decenter the woman herself because we don't want her to have any paper on her. We don't
Right.
want her to have a phone.
To
And
be at
most of them-
risk.
Yeah. And most of them don't have one, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the rural areas. So we actually connect the doctors and the specialists together. So they're able to send an alert saying, we have a woman who's come in today. She doesn't feel safe coming again. Can I send her to this cafe on a Wednesday?
Oh, wow.
And that's the only thing that's
So it's
shared
like very
verbally.
covert.
Yeah, so verbally they'll say on Wednesday between 9 and 12, there'll be this woman named Sara, and you can meet her at this cafe. But we constantly change these locations. I mean, this is
And
at
these
a weekly
doctors and
basis.
specialists are operating domestically inside Afghanistan.
yes. So they're all domestic. Some of them have contracts with UN agencies, but primarily they work within this covert method.
How hard is it to operate this when you're in London, especially to keep these networks going and out of the Taliban's control and eye?
Yeah. So one is we don't market any of this really. And the way that I share the messaging about the stories, I speak very broadly about it. And it's one of the reasons why AI has been such a game changer for us, because we're able to use wrappers. We're able to mask a lot of the platforms like they've done in Iran, for example, where you can build an app like we have and mask it with a calculator or a notes app or a weather app. So you're able to change the look of icons all the
wow.
time. So the Taliban can't really track or even know, like, what are we looking for?
And women moving online for their studies, what does that look like under your guidance with your app?
So for us, we focus specifically on things that we think have a tangible output. For example, helping a teacher provide a curated curriculum for a student that can study in person or at home. But we've seen a huge movement of online schools as well. But the problem is that a lot of them aren't monitored, so they're not accredited. And also a lot of the women who've reached out to me, for example, have said, please ask for accredited diplomas for us to be able to do something with it, to be able to study abroad, to be able to have a visa and to leave Afghanistan.
They're not given visas easily to study
Exactly.
abroad.
Yeah.
So even if they work and they're going on to online universities or online schools, to get to the point in which they could apply for international universities, they're not being given the permission from those other countries, those host countries, to even leave, to come.
And we've had, just in my own experience, I've had the most brilliant women, and I'm talking about a girl who messaged me who said that she was sitting on the top of her roof with her very old laptop that her father got her at a market, an old 90s heavy laptop that she's using to study online. And she was able to, with her restrictions, study online, get her grade 12 diploma, and got accepted to the University of Toronto on a full ride.
Amazing.
And she wasn't able to get her visa. So we have these amazing stories of women who've been able to achieve the most brilliant things, these young teenagers, really, who are studying underground, on roofs, in cafes, in the street, trying to get better Wi-Fi access, and have been able to succeed over the last 4 years in this restriction, getting full diplomas.
You have created a very stark picture of what women are facing right now in Afghanistan under the Taliban. There is, though, an exception to all of this. Afghan women hold roughly 10 times more business licenses than they did before Afghanistan collapsed. The UN puts that number at about 10,000 formal business licenses held by women, and 120,000 more women trade without one. The Taliban, it seems, is turning a blind eye to this. What kind of businesses are we talking about that women are holding and running here?
I mean, they range from every type of business, and that's why this is so astonishing. There's one woman who had a beekeeping business. Many women who own their own fashion houses, sell online products, makeup that comes in from China, from India, from Russia. There are women who have their own makeup businesses, private salons that they run from their homes, libraries, cafes. I saw a woman who just launched a matcha cafe in Kabul. So the Taliban has allowed a lot of agency for women to run their own businesses. But they've all said that it really is limited because the business can only take you so far. They also need support when it comes to getting accredited. For some of them, they don't want to be in business. They want to study nursing. They want to study medical care.
In the Middle East, there is kind of an indoctrination, I have to say, with my family being from Iran as well and understanding it, which is education equaling freedom.
Yes.
Right? And it's the reason why the Taliban makes it incredibly difficult for women to gain education. And it's the reason why women want that education. Yes. Because in spite of maybe making money or having a thriving business, they understand that without that education, or they feel as if without that education, they can't seek freedom.
Yeah. And I'd say that by limiting women to having businesses, they provide something which is urgent in the Afghan context, which is to provide a living for families. Right. But what Iran has taught us with the women is that a highly educated population of women will eventually, no matter who the regime is, will demand freedom. And that's what the Taliban sees in Iran, is they don't want that in Afghanistan. So by pushing women to get businesses, they say the survival component is set. You're able to provide for your families, but freedom, that comes through education. And any chance women would have for education scares them that much that the only reason they believe women, have essentially been, kind of pushed back to this extent is because they've been successfully able to, erase education, take away the right to education, because an educated population, especially Afghan women, would push back in their own ways. Because look at how much they've been able to achieve under such horrific restrictions.
Yeah.
Imagine an educated population.
Sara Wahedi, you're doing incredible work, and I'm sure the women of Afghanistan are very grateful, as am I, for you coming in today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For years, we've said the U.S. could become a soccer country. We said it back in 2007 when Manchester United star David Beckham joined the LA Galaxy. We said it again in 2023 when Barcelona legend Lionel Messi came to the U.S. to play for Inter Miami. And we've said it all 4 times that the U.S. women's team won the World Cup. But after the success of the World Cup right here in North America, I think maybe this could finally be the year we all become football converts. And that starts with watching this season of the English Premier League. The teams are wrapping up their final preseason matches this weekend before the official season opener. So to explain it all, I spoke with Rebecca Lowe, the host of NBC Sports Premier League coverage, fresh off covering this year's FIFA World Cup. Welcome back to the show, Rebecca.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
So help me understand how all of this works. The Premier League is, of course, England's professional soccer league, but there are a lot of leagues and teams and tournaments across the globe. So how is the Premier League different from Major League Soccer here in the US?
Okay, so it would be a little bit like, the best way I can explain it would be in NFL terms. So the NFL is America's American Football League. If there was an NFL in Australia, one in England, one in France, one in Germany, it would be similar to how the Premier League, Major League Soccer, La Liga in Spain, Serie A in Italy work. So the Premier League is England's domestic league. Now, that doesn't mean that only English players play in that league. You can be any nationality. And so the Premier League just happens to be the most lucrative, biggest, and I would say best in the world. And that's what we have on NBC.
So Americans just spent a ton of time this summer watching the World Cup, learning to love all of these Premier League players. What are some of the main storylines to watch now that we've all become converts?
Oh, Laura, so many storylines. There always are. If you're now a convert, which I'm delighted to hear that you are, the good news is it's like discovering a new soap opera. There are storylines every single week, and they are some crazy people getting fired when you don't expect it, crazy people coming back into jobs you don't expect it, new players, tantrums, the whole thing going on, right? But the biggest ones for everybody is that Arsenal, who are a big club from North London, they won it last year. They hadn't won it in over 20 years. They won what we call the title. They won the championship, bit like winning the Super Bowl. So Arsenal, how will they go about defending their title as they go into the new season? They've got a few good new players. And then you have another storyline, which I think may be interesting to your listeners and viewers. Manchester United. A lot of people have heard of Manchester United. Hugely heritage storied historical club, hasn't won the title in over 10 years, normally wins it almost every year. Are they ever going to get back to where they were once? Plus, we have 3 new teams entering the Premier League from the division below, because in England we have promotion and relegation. So 3 teams every year who are the worst drop down to the league below, and the 3 best teams from the league below come up. So that's always another good storyline to watch. Plus so many players from the World Cup. Erling Haaland, America fell in love with Erling Haaland.
Yes.
He plays for Manchester City, so you can watch him in a couple of weeks.
Can we do a speed round, if you will, about Premier League for fans who are deciding which team they should root for? Are you ready for this?
Of course.
Who are the top teams?
Okay. I'm going to get in trouble no matter what I say.
Oh,
But
yeah, we're trying to draw you into some mess.
You are, I know. Arsenal, Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool are, yeah.
Who are the underdogs, the sneaky good teams?
Oh, sneaky good. Aston Villa are always sneaky good. Tottenham have spent a lot of money this summer. They could be sneaky good considering last season they were rubbish. I would go with Aston Villa and Tottenham as sneaky good.
Biggest rivalry?
Oh, these are really hard, Laura, because anyone listening is going to disagree with me if it's not the people that they think, because that's English football, right? Biggest rivalry for me is Manchester United against Liverpool. 2 cities, Manchester, Liverpool, 30 miles apart maybe, absolutely hate each other.
All right, last one. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Team with the best fan ritual.
Oh, crikey. I'm going to say it all for me comes down to the best song that the team sings or the fans sing as they walk out of the tunnel. And that probably for an American looking to find a club, it's going to have to be Liverpool. You'll Never Walk Alone blasts out around Anfield. They have a ritual where they touch the "This is Anfield" sign. Like, Anfield and Liverpool are such an incredibly historic club. They're owned by the same people who own the Boston Red Sox. So if you're a Boston Red Sox fan, maybe that's the team for you. You have to see it to believe it. Television does it good justice, but if you can get to Anfield and see "You'll Never Walk Alone" be sung by nearly 50,000 people, that will give you chills.
You're making me think of Ted Lasso. That's my extent of football knowledge, aside from the World Cup, which I do think was a turning point for so many of us, right? And the level of American interest in soccer. The final match, get this, are you ready? It brought in 60 million viewers in the US alone. There's nothing that brings together 60 million viewers on television anymore. How do we keep this excitement going?
You know, it's interesting you said in the intro about, is it this time that it's going to happen in the US? Is it this time now that the women have won? Now Messi's here. I think we just have to be, as people like me who love soccer, who love football, it's a process. And all those times you mentioned in your intro, they've all built up to this point. But I agree, this summer is going to be a turning point. Now, is it going to be as big a turning point as I would like? Maybe not. But there has never been a bigger shift in this country where soccer's concerned as we've had this summer. We will see with our viewing figures on the Premier League whether or not we bring some new viewers in. I think we will, just anecdotally from the people I've spoken to. I think we will. It has penetrated for the first time places in this country I never thought football would reach. Women and men who've never watched a single game. And it's because it's a brilliant product. It's just that living in the United States is so saturated with NFL and NBA mainly, that it's difficult to break through. So is it going to change everything? No. Is it going to make another gigantic step towards changing anything long after we're all gone? Yes.
One step at a time. Rebecca Lowe, thank you for your excitement.
You are so welcome. Thanks for having me, Laura.
That's going to do it for us at Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Laura Jarrett, filling in for Yasmin Vossoughian. We'll be back on Monday with whatever the day may bring. And if you like what you saw, press the subscribe button.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.